Hello, I'm going to introduce to you a new institute at NUS called NUS ALSET, which stands for the NUS Institute for the Application of Learning Science and Educational Technology. And ALSET is a pretty hard name to remember, so let me break it down for you. There's really three key parts. There's the application, which is in orange here, which states that our research institute is concerned with application, not just basic science. So whatever types of educational technology or learning science research that we do, we want to plow it back to help our tertiary students at the university apply and benefit from this. And there are two different aspects of our research highlighted in the yellow and blue, learning sciences, to better understand how people learn and to apply analytics to that. And secondly, educational technology, using technology to enhance our ability to inform, educate, and help learners self-direct their learning. So the mantra of our organization is we help learners learn. So this is a little bit different from other units in the university that I'll talk about later. And how we do it is through three important strands of work. Firstly, we conduct original research, which is what the research office in NUS ALSET does. We have two other branches concerned with innovation and education. At the moment, they're a little smaller in size. Innovation looks at trying to create entrepreneurial projects that can be spun off to startups, looking at education technology and learning sciences. And finally, the education, right, as I said earlier, we try to plow all of our techniques back into educating our students. That can come in the form of courses that the Institute teaches as well. So NUS is a big university. It has several different units concerning education. And there are three other institutions that we've highlighted in blue on this slide. And they form a complementary view of learning and education at NUS. First and foremost, there's CDTL, which many in the university know. This is the Center for the Development of Teaching and Learning. It concerns teaching teachers to teach better, rather than being learner-centric, as our institute is. On the bottom of this is also CIT, the Center for Instructional Technology. They are concerned with the rollout, operations, and maintenance of all of the IT infrastructure that helps both teachers and learners perform their duties within the university. And finally, there's Teaching Academy, which helps to also transform teachers to be more self-aware of their endeavors and bring in master teachers from other universities to inform our practices. ALSET works with all three of these units, mostly to inform the research aspects of the university, in other words, to increase our understanding and exposure to research aspects of pedagogical influence, and to promote these aspects inside and publish these aspects outside of the university. That's what the research office does, and to plow these findings back into our own students and students within the Singapore ecosystem, including K through 12 and into lifelong learning. One way that ALSET does this is through its education strand, which I highlighted on the last slide. And this comes in two forms. We have two courses that we teach. One is the Learning to Learn Better, which has been rolled out to lifelong learning alumni, as well as the undergraduate students. And we're continuing to develop a course on learning to choose better and learning analytics. The challenge for our institution is such: we need more research on how learners actually learn. The problem here is that there are explosion of new technologies and new findings that are coming out from basic science and industry almost every week. The problem is that the policies within the university aren't changing and adapting fast enough to take these into consideration. And that's why NUS has instituted this institute to look at this problem and to inform the university about the right ways to apply and change policies to adapt. And most of the research up to now in pedagogical concerns have been mostly from the Western world, and Asia has had actually a very small impact on the tertiary education that students are facing. We hope to inform the wider context, the global context of how we can understand pedagogy, learning, and teaching in the Asian context. And all of this is the research, but what about the best practices? They don't always make it into the classroom. We need to ensure that proven technologies actually do make it in outside of their research findings and inform our undergraduate students in transforming their education. In fact, we have many instruments and technological interventions that create and generate data about students and teachers, which all three stakeholders of students, teachers, and administrators could use to better inform their practice and improve the ways they educate and learn. So as part of this introduction, we'd like to call all of our stakeholders to align their research with an education research focus. We have many faculty that are specialists in their discipline, but when we think about passing this knowledge on to the next generation, a pedagogical and educational center develops. And how we can do that? Well, one thing is that you can use our data lake. We'll talk about this shortly, where we amass data from across the entire NUS institution to help create analytics that can help prove or disprove hypotheses about how learning and its interventions have an effect. We can also participate as faculty who create an intervention or study, which we are going to call core faculty, or want to use one of these interventions or studies to help improve their pedagogy. And these faculty will name as affiliated faculty. You can also use our monies through seed grants to propel your work forward in looking for grants in the Singapore ecosystem outside of NUS. So for the remainder of this introduction, I'm going to introduce to you three different parts. The research data that we've amassed called the data lake, the research model that we have envisioned for faculty, and the external partnerships that we hope that we can reach out as an institute with the help of our members. First of all, there's the data lake. In many large organizations, data is owned by various stakeholders, and gathering all of that into one place to help facilitate business intelligence is tricky. So this is what we hope to do at NUS. In fact, we have a mandate from the provost to get all of the data sets that concerns learners from multiple sources and consolidate them into one large data lake where raw data or near raw data has been placed into the data lake for researchers to further process and join together to make insights. The important part of this is not just pulling together the data, but also providing simplified access. This is important because previously, without the data lake, individual principal investigators had to go to each data steward to secure access. With the ALSET data lake, you need only to approach the ALSET Institute and inform us about what type of study you need to do. And we will help you with the the institutional review board applications in order to ensure that your grant and study is properly aligned and that you're provisioned with access to the data you need. So as I said, ALSET data lake looks like this. We have information from the registrar. We have information from the learning management system. In NUS, this is called IVLE or Luminous. We also have individual studies from students, from surveys or student feedback on how they did with courses, how they liked or disliked their instructors, and surveys that are conducted, for example, the Graduate Employment Survey, which surveys students who are graduating and where their next destination in life will be. We also have mobility data, so that means, for example, where students are accessing their LMS, whether it's on the shuttle bus or in lecture halls or outside of campus. And all of these sources of data have to help our policyholders and our stakeholders, including students, faculty, and our upper management like deans and provosts. All three of these pillars of stakeholders need to be informed and have to be provisioned with analytics and dashboards to help them visualize and make policy and make changes to either their learning or their teaching. So you might realize that this is a pictorial of someplace in Singapore. This is Marina Bay Sands. And the impression that we'd like to give you with this presentation is that this can be done here in Singapore, where we know and we've heard many times Singapore is a living testbed and suitable for many applications when people want to study smart cities. So NUS is a good microcosm for studying that because it has both the scale of over 20,000 undergraduate students and over 40,000 alumni that are recent, who can be used to understand better learning sciences and educational technologies. We're also looking at educational data policy. This is an evolving part of the Institute, which we have to develop good guiding principles for data analytics. Typically, an institutional review board, which looks over the ethics and protects the identity of subjects participating in studies, has been geared for medical applications, in which very sensitive data such as blood samples and DNA have to be screened and utilized very carefully. In educational data policy, we have the academic records of students and their learning actions, and these are also similarly sensitive but at a different level. And so ALSET is working with the university to construct an appropriate data policy to govern ALSET and the research done here. We want to facilitate our principal investigators' research without impeding their progress, but also informing our students and our teachers of what goes into the analytics. So here we have the Envisioned Datasets that we have absorbed and will be absorbing into the NUS ALSET data lake. Items 1 through 4 indicate the data that has already been ingested into our data lake. This includes grade data on which students take in which modules, LMS transaction logs, what keystrokes and mouse movements students have made on their learning management system transactions, and a graduate employment survey, which again surveys outgoing students who are graduating from the university about where they might be heading to in the next chapter of life. We have also information about student feedback on courses from the current semester, but have not yet ingested all of the feedback for historical records. Items 5 through 11 contain other data sources that we are thinking of ingesting into the data lake, but we need your help as faculty and stakeholders to prioritize which of these data sources are important to facilitate your studies. To request data lake access, we have a workflow that works with the Research Data Office. You can request access to the data catalog to see what the data lake contains in a toy dataset by going to this URL here. Afterwards, once you feel that you're ready to access the data lake in full, you need to meet with our research coordinator to discuss your project ID, complete an IRB application, which is almost always necessary. ALSET will support you with this application in case you haven't done it before. And then you'll have to sign the acceptable use policy as the last step, and it needs to be approved by the provost after the IRB has been approved. With that, you'll have access to the data lake, and you'll be able to make queries on the data lake to try to prove or disprove your hypothesis. So faculty are involved on the left side of this slide in terms of the research strand. And later in this presentation, I will go over the other two parts on the right. Let us start by understanding that the research involvement of faculty takes 4 different forms, which I'll start with the research theme leads and the translational technology lead. The research theme leads are illustrated on the left of the slide. We have a neuroscience basis, a teaching and learning excellence basis or theme, which is helmed by Patricia Chen of psychology, a social and network analysis theme headed by Tuan Q Fan, and economics, which is helmed by Jessica Pan. The latter two look at more macroscopic issues, such as ones that concern learners after they've taken a course, in terms of, for example, what students and peers they interact with and see how that affects their grades or outcomes, or what type of economic benefits students can reap after taking certain courses or making certain decisions. For the interventional part, where teachers intervene on their courses using a particular pedagogical device, that would be the teaching and learning excellence research theme helmed by our psychology professor Patricia Chen. Also, looking at the top of the slide, we have a neuroscience research theme whose theme leader has not yet been confirmed yet. However, they will be looking at the imaging or basic science of learning using fMRI scanners or other types of imaging devices to detect when and how the neurochemical basis of learning takes place. On the right-hand side of the slide, we have our translation technology lead. Joseph, in the information and analytics group, is responsible for integrating all of the research in a way that helps to aid in ALSET, the application of. Aside from the research theme leads and the translation technology lead, we have core faculty and affiliated faculty. The core faculty are people who have primary interest in studying pedagogy, either through intervention research or through studies research. Many times, a person who creates an educational intervention requires a number of different faculty members to field that innovation so that the effect sizes can be tested under different applications. For example, a particular intervention might be fielded not only in the School of Computing, but also in the Faculty of Engineering, the Faculty of Science, and in Medicine. For this, we need a large number of affiliated faculty, or intervention facilitators, instructors who care about making sure the best possible learning interventions can be fielded within their classes to help their students learn better. These faculty form the affiliated faculty ranks, and we envision a much larger affiliated faculty rank that can assist the core faculty in participating together in a joint study to make our basic research on intervention more broadly applicable and more prestigious in nature. So there are many ways that you can participate as faculty. You can attend their monthly research theme meetings that take place almost every month in the middle of the month. You can help us to define the key learning analytics policy for ALSET and network with our core and affiliated faculty. And we will make public a slide deck on faculty interventions and research areas that are forthcoming. There are a number of different funding models that we have at NUS ALSET. This includes how we allow core faculty to apply for extramural grants, which is in item number 2. When core faculty apply for grants outside of NUS, they can get ALSET support in terms of help with the IRB, with the grant review, and the literature review. When you win an extramural grant as an item 3, ALSET will get matching funding from the provost in the order of 1 to 3. So if you win a $100,000 grant, then ALSET will get $33,000 in directly from the provost and does not touch your indirect costs that are normally slated for your department or faculty. Part of this one-to-free matching grant will come back to the PI in form of another form of indirect costs that you can use to help your own research agenda and plug gaps in categorical funding. Another way that faculty can be involved is through the innovation strand. This is in the Learning Innovation Lab being started at ALSET to translate and facilitate student involvement in taking charge of learning as well. For example, an activity that we carried out earlier last year was the NUS EdTech Challenge 2017, which asked a broad statement, what will learning look like in 5 years? And the winner from this particular competition, one of them, also participated in the MOE Learning Build-a-thon in 2017. And it brought about a good win for our institute. The final way that faculty can get involved is with the education strand. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have executed the Learning to Learn course, the ALS 1010 course, and we are developing a Learning to Choose course as well as a Learning Analytics course. In the education strand, we are employing faculty members within our institute to directly try to help develop courses for students to learn better. So the Learning to Learn Better course looks at how learners can take a meta view of their learning activities and identify and defend different learning strategies that they can use to learn their particular coursework better. So, in closing, I hope this informational video has been helpful for you, and please get in touch with us by visiting our website or emailing us or looking through this slide deck again. Thank you very much.